It is my great pleasure to welcome Ambassador Ron Spogli. He was the ambassador of the United States in Italy for 3.5 years. And this great program was initiated as a case study in Italy under his ambassadorship by Richard Bowley, who is the convener of this conference. Ambassador, welcome.
Thank you.
I want to take off from where Richard left. He talked about a case study that he did in Italy on promoting entrepreneurship in that country, and was a very successful role model. Just want you to elaborate on that.
Sure. When I arrived in Italy as the ambassador in October of 2005, we convened some of the senior members of the embassy to talk about what things we could do on a going forward basis that would have a major positive impact on what was already a very good bilateral relationship between the United States and Italy. And the major topic that we came up with as a long-term objective was to try to develop a program that could provide economic dynamism, a contribution to economic dynamism in Italy. Now you could probably say, Italy's a G7 country, originally now a G8 country. Why do they need economic dynamism? Well, unfortunately, Italy is an advanced economy that has had what I would call arrested development. Their economic development over the last 9 years now, beginning with the new millennium, has been extremely anemic. In fact, they've had the lowest economic growth rate of any country in Western Europe, with the exception of Portugal. Average economic growth has been less than 1%. So we wanted to make a contribution to that because we're concerned that even though we have a terrific political-military relationship with Italy, that if they would continue to grow as slowly as they did, they would simply not be the kind of ally that we would want them to be, contributing massively to efforts that we have in the Balkans, in Afghanistan, and in places like the Middle East and Lebanon. Unless they developed greater economic resources, they simply couldn't afford to do this. So we had a very clear foreign policy objective in trying to add dynamism to the Italian economy. Second objective is we want to do more business with them, because even though we have a great political-military relationship, we don't do a lot of business together with Italy. So those are the two primary objectives that gave rise to this program, which we called the Partnership for Growth. And we wanted to do something different. We wanted to do something that was really focused on entrepreneurialism. We wanted to do something that was focused on capital market development. Italy does not have developed capital markets, does not have a developed venture capital model, and so we wanted to make a contribution to that effort. We wanted to stimulate intellectual property protection, which was very low, and we wanted to send bright young people to the United States on an exchange program to see how we do entrepreneurialism here, so that they could take some of those ideas back to their home country, obviously adapt them to the local circumstance, and begin to infuse a different mentality, if you will, to the process of creating new businesses and economic growth.
This must be a learning experience for many of the audience who will listen to this, that you took the example of Italy as somewhere where you can infuse this kind of entrepreneurship. But do you think we can import, if I may use for the lack of a better word, to the developing economies on the model that you built in Italy?
Well, I think the notion here is that wherever there is a desire for greater economic growth, wherever there's a desire to develop new business models, wherever there's a desire to enhance the ability of young people to realize their economic dreams, I think this is a model which works, because it was not so much an idea that we were imparting lessons to people, but that we were sharing our experiences and suggesting that many of the elements that have given rise to our ability to be successful as the country known for the greatest process of innovation in the world, that many of those elements would not work in other places, but there were certain pieces that clearly had great value, that could work in Italy, that could work in Jordan, that could work in South Africa, that could work in South America and in Asia. And as a consequence, the notion was to share those experiences in a way that people could appreciate what were some of the most important elements, and take those pieces back and presumably use them in a way that would give them some advantages in their home country.
We'll take a concrete example here. Let's pick a country in Africa called Nigeria. Great resources, a lot of young people who come here to study, go to Europe to study, to have a yearning to improve the entrepreneurship environment. But as we just heard, it is an oligarchy style of entrepreneurship. How does U.S., which we always give out funds to various development causes, can include entrepreneurship into the model and improve the conditions of the young people in Nigeria?
Yeah, well, again, I think if I can take the Italian example, many of the same conditions ironically exist in Italy, where it is very difficult to break into a system which has very well-established patterns. In Italy, if you are not part of the established a group of well-respected entrepreneurs, it's difficult to get funding, it's difficult to get support, and there's a cultural impediment that suggests that if you try and fail, you are out forever. So in many respects, Italy, even though it's a modern, developed country, has many of those same issues. Our point was to empower individuals to see that they could accomplish a great deal, that a great idea could be developed into potentially a terrific business. And you didn't have to be in the United States of America to create that idea. You could be anywhere in the world. The question was, how could you go from the creation of an idea to the creation of a business that could literally have a positive impact, not only in your country potentially, but around the world? That process of going from idea to business creation is one that we do particularly well here, with a whole ecosystem of venture capitalists, of business experts, of individuals to run businesses that can give life to basically an inchoate idea. And I think that is one of the lessons that we're trying to show people, that there is this ecosystem, that they could use this ecosystem, because a great idea, whether it's generated in China, whether it's generated in Israel, whether it's generated in Afghanistan, if it's a great idea, it has the potential to become very important with the right kind of nurturing and the right kind of attention.
Finally, it must be very gratifying to learn that, your case study, which was so successful in Italy, is now being put on a global platform to promote it through the State Department. Just wanted your views on this conference.
Again, our view is that to the extent that we were successful, and I would say that this is a long process. To be sure, in 3.5 years, one can make some important first steps, but one cannot say that one has achieved success, I think, by any means. But some of the indicators that give us a lot of confidence is that once we began to create new relationships, and it's called the Partnership for Growth for a reason. We were doing this in partnership with Italians, and we enlisted the support of literally thousands of Italian students, entrepreneurs, business people, government leaders who saw the value in doing this. And therefore, the sense that we have is that the positive initiatives that went far beyond the time that we were there, the fact that there are new initiatives being formed as a result of this process and nurtured locally, give us the sense that this is now a process that we got going that will continue. And that is what makes me feel as if it has tremendous applicability. And also because one other factor, this is something that young people really found attractive. As diplomats, we often find that it's not easy to find material, to find issues that we can always achieve common ground with younger people. It's not always possible to have the same point of view about Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, and the Middle East. Entrepreneurship, their own economic future, is something that young people bought into in a major way. So from that standpoint, it gives us a tremendously positive public diplomacy tool, and it turned out to be, by far, the most positive and the most original public diplomacy tool that we had, and it was very powerful.
Right. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.